Hey guys, what's going on? So today I'm going to be doing a very rare video for me, which is exposing a trading service. In this case, it's Scott Stewart's Trading. And so if you like your gurus with a side order of criminal activity or alleged criminal activity, then definitely keep tuned in for this particular review. Honestly, I normally do very positive reviews of people. I generally don't test systems that I don't think will work very well. This is the exception though. So before I get started, I wanted to bring to your attention in the description below, there'll be a link to this Learn How to Win 90% of Your Trades in 90 Seconds. This is a free course that Lance from thetatraders.com and I put together, and it teaches you all the basics that you need to know to sell options to collect a premium, which is one of the best ways to make consistent passive income. So Theta Traders is this website right here, if you don't know it. It's run by Lance, and we have all the results for 2022, 2023, and 2024 on request. And this is important because Lance does a very similar style of trading to Scott Stewart, the guy I'm about to talk about. But unlike Scott Stewart, he keeps a meticulous track record and posts it publicly, and also posts the full track record with full details of every trade to his members. And this is really important in this trading industry, right? Is to make sure that you're really transparent with the results. So you can come to thetatraders.com, click on any of the spreadsheets, or reach out to Lance if you want to see 2024. He has a whole bunch of strategies from daily zero DTE trade alerts on SPX, so very similar to the style of trading I'm going to talk about that Scott Stewart does, all the way to selling puts, naked puts on futures, and everything in between. So you can check out what's to offer on here in your own time. And with that being said, I want you to compare that to what I'm about to talk about. So let's get rid of these right here. So getting started on Scott Stewart Trading, you can see the ad that I came across probably a few weeks ago now. I've seen it pop up on my Facebook feed over the last 6 months. So this is Scott Stewart. He says he's had 40 years trading. He's coached 150,000 traders. And he's worked with somebody rather famous, Robert Kiyosaki of Rich Dad Poor Dad fame. That's him right here. And Brian Rose, which is a guy that does a podcast called London Real. It's on YouTube. And also, it's pretty big. So I actually like Brian Rose quite a bit. He has a lot of really interesting guests on. And I like Robert Kiyosaki too. So Grant Cardone, obviously, he's a household name at this point. And like, this gives him some credibility, right? You'd think this would give him some credibility because he's associating with these big names. There's a free trial, which is also good. That's what I'm actually doing at the moment. So you can click on this. I'll put a link in the description. However, you may not want to after I do this review. So I want to take this opportunity to say that everything I say today is my opinion. And it's basically my opinion formed by looking through publicly available material. And of course, I may be completely wrong in my assessment of Scott Stewart Trading, but I don't think I am. And I'll explain why once we get started on this review. So Scott has many different domain names. Level to Level Trading's one. He has the main one, which is the Scott Stewart Trading, Zero DTE. He has a bunch of them. But they all come back to this one program. Actually, there's two programs, but one of them is the Theta Traders. Well, not Theta Traders, the Theta Selling program, where he's basically selling options, Zero DTE. And this is the Theta Sellers server right here. He's selling SPX, NDX, and he's collecting premium on these on Zero DTE. Now, I'm convinced that he is doing Zero DTE because it's so trendy and so popular, and it gets a lot of people into his service. Now, I have nothing against this style of trading. I think it's pretty risky though. But, you know, if you do it right, it can be profitable. There can be a positive expectancy to it. So I joined the server and I was looking through some of the channels, and what's immediately not clear is like, what is his actual results? He makes a lot of big claims on his Facebook ads and on his Facebook group. So if you go here, his full name, and this is worth remembering, his full name is Scott Richard Stewart, and he's from Utah. So this is worth remembering because of what I'm about to talk about. So he makes a lot of like really bold claims. Like, he just posts these winners and things, and he'll say he's made like $200,000 from his Zero DTE stuff. This may or may not be true, but there's some evidence to suggest it isn't true. And so let's get into kind of the darker side of this review, which is looking at Reddit, of all places. So in my research for this review, I came across Reddit, and you can see here what they're saying about him. And they're not happy with him at all. So they're saying he was a member of Scott's zero-DTE option trading service and quickly found out he's running a well-oiled scam. He has 400 people in his Discord, combined with another investing service. So the other investing service is scalping. I haven't reviewed that, but apparently these guys are not very happy with him. And they deliberately wrote this review to get it to the top of Google, so Reddit ranks really well on Google. And the first big warning sign here is the fact that he rolls everything. So if you look here, he said, everyone wants to trade zero DTE. Try and highlight this. And that's what brings people to the room. And I agree with that. It's very trendy. He routinely loses 20,000 plus on zero DTE, NDX, and SPX credit spreads. He'll roll the bad trades, and when they get worse, he'll close them, saying, let's reset that trade. And when I look at the Discord, so this is his Theta Seller's Discord, it's very evident from going through the different channels that he indeed does roll all the time. So he said rolled the NDX, puts out a debit. You can see his trades here. Rolling SPX calls out and up. So every day there's rolls. And you see that throughout all of these different channels. So he has so many different ways to trade, zero DTE being the most popular, but there's all these different other sell-side trades. And we can go through those in a bit. I just want to kind of set the stage here for who I think Scott Stewart is, from what I can see publicly. So, looking through some of these comments, this is worth pointing out. So this guy's saying it's $150 a month. It's actually a lot more than that now. It's $250 a month. It's compared to something like Theta Traders, where we're charging $197 for 3 months. So it's definitely overpriced, even if he's legit, which I don't believe he is from what I'm seeing. This guy's saying very little education. He's just a hack that slings iron condors every day in his main account or does strangles on high IV stocks in another. But he'll never just stop out and take a small loss. He'll roll for months on end and claims he's just cash flowing when he's really trying to cover up losses on the rolls. I agree with that assessment. We can't be sure of that, like 100% sure, but it looks like that's what he's doing. And there's a couple of different services out there that do this. And the nice thing about thetatraders.com is Lance never rolls at all, ever. He might roll on like a PDS or something, when he, it's very rare though. But on all the main trades, like the zero DTE, never rolls. And there's a good reason for that. You can end up just rolling and rolling until you're half your account's into one trade, and you're desperately trying to get out of it. So it's a really bad thing. Now he claims, this guy, Scott Stewart, claims that rolling is actually his secret sauce. That's his edge, right? That's what he's saying he does in order to manage the trades and adjust. Now, besides the fact that that takes a lot of time and effort, you've got to be constantly watching and monitoring stuff. It's not a passive strategy at all. It's also a very bad strategy, as been shown over and over again. It could be compared to something like the martingale strategy. If you do it enough, right, that would be considered martingale, which has been proven to be a losing strategy in the long run. One day you will eventually blow up. So I got some good information from here. So one thing I found was a lawsuit. And this is where it gets really dark. So I found this guy. It says, look, our boy Scotty was in a second lawsuit a few years ago. So his other lawsuit involved him holding snake oil sales presentations, trying to resell scum of the earth buddy Robert Kiyosaki. I don't know, I like Robert Kiyosaki, this guy. And maybe he was doing it in a way that isn't really legal, but Robert Kiyosaki himself is a good guy, and he's helped a lot of people with rich man, poor man. So this case here is this one right here. So this is in the Supreme Court of Utah, and it's the state of Utah versus Scott Richard Stewart. Now that's important because I think it is the same Scott. Now it might not be, and everybody's innocent until proven guilty, but this guy here is from Utah, and this is trading with Scott, and his name is Scott Richard Stewart. So we're talking about a guy in Utah with the name Scott Richard Stewart, and this guy is Scott Richard Stewart. He's in Utah, and the claims are that the state were trying to sue him over criminal activity related to securities fraud. So we have a link with the market and trading. and also an unlicensed advisor as well. Here we go. So one count of unlicensed investment advisor activity. That would be in line with the service. Now, this I definitely disagree with. So some people argue, and states in particular might argue, that if you're given alerts out in a Discord room or whatever, that you're acting like an unlicensed investment advisor. But that's not true. And it's been proven time and time again in many, many different courts that you're allowed to do this. This is perfectly legal. You're not acting as an unlicensed investment advisor as long as you don't give personalized advice. You're protected by a law which allows you to publish what you're doing to a public forum, or even if you're being paid, it doesn't matter. It's still protected under the publisher rules and laws. So this is kind of, in Scott's favour here. This probably is nonsense. I've seen these dismissed for other big companies as well. So you have to realize here, though, this looks really bad. So they're basically saying like he's had a pattern of criminal activity, which isn't something you want to see in your stock alerts guru, right? So he's saying that there's a pattern, like the state's saying there's a pattern of unlawful activity, which is not good, except when you realize that this is actually an appeal by the state of Utah because they lost the case. So that's the good thing for Scott Richard Stewart, right? Is the state lost their case against him, and they're appealing, and that's what this document is. And I'm not a lawyer, so I can't go into all the details of this and understand it. But there's another side to this on top of that. So you think, okay, well, he got off with this. He was found not guilty, essentially, not liable for this. However, one of his arguments against this is he's saying that he's not committed this pattern of unlawful activity because the statute of limitations has expired on some of the things that could be considered unlawful activity. Now, this is interesting for a couple of different reasons. The first one is that just because you've committed an offense, whether he has or hasn't in this case, it still looks really bad to just be using the statute of limitations to get out of punishment for this particular accusation. So that's not good. But the second thing is, these cases can often be brought in retaliation. So I've seen a few groups of people get annoyed at a person that's doing stock alerts, for example, or investors that feel they have a grudge against them, and they'll go to the Attorney General's office and the FBI and all these places and report these guys, trying to get revenge on them. Even if the person hasn't done these things, they can still end up being reported to state agencies and even federal agencies as well. So you have to take everything you see in these lawsuits and these documents with a huge pinch of salt. Nevertheless, this is enough for me to be like, nope, not having anything to do with this guy any further. So my trial's going to be up in a few days, and I'm going to just cancel the service because this combined with the non-stop rolling is just ridiculous. So I'm just going to, I'm not going to stay subscribed to the service. And it's a combination of the two, and this may be completely fine. There might be nothing here. After all, this is an appeal, remember, so you've got to take that into account. But along with the negative reviews on Reddit, saying these people that were members for a lot longer now saying that he's taken $85,000 losses, there's also one that shows he was actually saying he'd made 200,000 profits year to date, but he posted a screenshot of his accounts that showed a minus 100,000 year to date. And they've included the images here, so let's have a look at these. They're not the clearest thing in the world. Yeah, I can barely read this, but it does look like there's a minus 96,000 here. So when you start to put this picture together, it's not something you really want to be part of. Nevertheless, there is some good training videos in here. So I went to the welcome channel, and there's some good training videos. And the person doing it isn't Scott, though, but he does talk a lot of sense, and I think there's definitely value in these training videos for sure. I actually asked Scott in this one right here. I think it was in... Actually, it looks like he might have taken it down. Let me see. No, he's still got it here. So I actually asked him if he kept a track record. And so he's posting this stuff, and this stuff alone is terrible. I mean, there's no indication of what trades he actually did. And you can see he rolled this one, for example, and he was overall negative using $53,000. Now, this is one thing that's a big red flag to me as well, is he claims to have made $200,000 over a certain period of time using just $30,000 to $40,000 of buying power. And it just doesn't seem right for these sell-side strategies, which are awesome for consistent income, but they're often quite small, like wins. And it's very like small amounts frequently, which is good. But you generally don't 300% your account using these strategies from what I've seen, at least, and I've been doing this for years now. So I asked him where this was posted, and he said, of course I post all my trades and stuff. I still haven't found them, though, so if you guys are members of this and you know where to find them, I'd love to look through that, because so far what I've seen is he posts like these summaries, but there really isn't details on every trade, and because he's rolling, it's impossible to keep track of them in the Discord channel. It's not like he puts an entry and an exit and you can look through and get a general feel, which you can do in some Discord servers, but he just kind of is like, of course I do. So he says, of course it's posted every day in the blog. First of all, I can't find the blog, and there's no links to the blog. And second of all, this is not really a track record. So it's just his different strategies. So let's go through the Discord and then call it a day, because I don't think you guys would get a lot from this. I really don't. So here's the 4 to 6 day DTE on SPY and QQQ. You can see what he's doing here. Data Fairy. So he's doing strangles on ES, which one thing I did notice here, these are 1 DTE strangles, or even 0 DTE strangles. And they are only about less than 100 wide. Well, the market is moving so much at the moment that it can move 50 to 100 points in a day or a few hours pretty easily these days. So these are pretty risky at the moment, I'd say. Maybe in more sideways markets these things would be a little bit better. But he's claiming profit on all of those as well. At least they're a bit easier to follow. So he has vampire trades, he has DIA ladders, he has oil ladders, so if you're interested in oil. He does strangles on oil as well. So pretty interesting. So he definitely has a lot of stuff on the sell side here. He has some more complicated stuff. Dragonfly, Diagonal, Zebra trades in here. But really his main claim to fame is these 0 DTE SPX trades. And without a full track record, it's impossible to gauge whether this is really profitable or not. He claims it is. A lot of people say it's not. I'm a little bit skeptical based on the lawsuits from the state of Utah. And I'm pretty sure there's more than this. So somebody mentioned that there is another one, but I couldn't find it on Google. Sometimes these things can be quite hard to find. And I couldn't really find like what this one is referring to. So they're kind of hidden. So hopefully that's helpful. It's not a service that I really recommend based on the lack of credibility, the lack of transparency, the non-stop rolling. I would go with something like Theta Traders. I would say it's going to be a better bet for most people. It's much less expensive, and Lance is a legitimate guy who posts all of his trades, and you can definitely check that out. We don't offer a free trial anymore, but we do offer like a ladder system, so you can start on like the quarterly subscription, which is only $197 every 3 months, compared to the $250 for Scott Stewart's service. And for this, you get some put credit spread alerts. You also get the 0 DTE SPX alerts. Same as Scott Stewart stuff, are very similar. 3 month SPY. The only difference here is Lance never rolls these, so you're going to be in and out very mechanically. And that's something that's really missing from Scott Stewart's approach, is that mechanical execution that usually is what makes traders profitable. He's claiming the opposite. He's claiming that rolling and managing the trades is what makes him profitable, but there really isn't any evidence for that. So I would definitely stick with the mechanical approach, and I will be. Okay, well, hopefully that's helpful, and let me know if you've tried this service and if it's something that you benefit from, because I'm struggling to see much from Scott Stewart's stuff that would be useful. Alright guys, talk to you soon.